That's
And we're back in third quarter planning.
the best way to do it.
Adams is quarterbacking this project, and she's looking pretty tired, Jim.
She's stuck, Bill.
All right, so we're going to continue with the lesson, and in this week's lesson,
That's true too.
we're going to talk about the
For
initial
all of
stage of group. I'm going to go over the learning objectives and give you a brief introduction, and then I'm going to talk to you about the various components of
True.
the initial stage of group, and
Does
then the
anybody-
various roles that you have as a leader and a member. All right, so here we go. So one of the learning objectives is to identify and define the key characteristics of the group during the initial stage. You also are going to gain knowledge about how to deal with conflict early in the group, examine a framework for effectively
Isn't that your job?
establishing trust among members.
No, isn't that your job?
Leader.
Is that
We're
your
gonna
job?
also talk about how to assist members in defining their own
Right.
personal goals for group participation. In this one, you want to ask
Right.
people, okay, the topic of this group is XYZ, but at the end of this group
What's the monthly
process, what are you hoping to get out of it?
What's the
So
monthly payment?
After, let's say, the 12 weeks are done, or the 15 weeks are done, what are you hoping to get out of this group experience? And you ask them to share their experience. You want to make sure that it's SMART goals, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time sensitive. So make sure that you cover that with each person and shape their goals. You're going to discuss the therapeutic factors and how they contribute to group effectiveness.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
also understand some research findings related to therapeutic relationships. We'll talk about guidelines for getting the most out of the group experience, issues that face co-leaders during an initial stage, and how to open and close sessions. All right. So by introduction, chapter 6 in the group therapy book describes the characteristics and elements of a group process that are most pertinent when a group begins. Things like orientation, exploration are the major processes that occur in the initial stage of
So
group
you get
development.
0 for real?
So orientation
You're
is
not letting
getting
them answer the
people familiar with what's going to happen, whether
question. Do
it
you make
be
100 on each card? or you
structure,
see
group
0
process,
on this card?
rules and responsibilities. These are all part of the orientation process. And exploration, trying to figure oneself out, figure out where one fits within the larger group, is also important. Now,
That's what I thought.
keep an eye out for people who are reluctant to self-disclose. That's common. A reluctance to self-disclose or a resistance might come from a hidden agenda.
Sounds like.
Now, it's not always a hidden agenda, but, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, but self-disclosure is important for the openness and growth process. So in the beginning, without trust, people might
How do you
not
pronounce his name?
self-disclose. But we talked about resistance in an earlier lesson. And I said resistance was when people do
It'll pay
things
for,
that
it'll
go
pay for
against
his
what
house.
the goals
Yeah.
or target of the group is, right? So you want to pay attention to resistance as well. And if there is a hidden agenda, what is a hidden agenda? This is something that a person may not openly acknowledge, and it may not be discussed by the group members, but they may carry that into the group and can use it to disrupt the group process.
He did hang
So
out.
there are people who join groups and they torpedo the group process due to whatever their hidden agenda is.
I think I
And you
yelled.
can't know that until you start to see the behaviors manifesting. So it's imperative upon the leaders to shape productive norms,
Yes,
encourage
I'll
members
share
to
my
focus
leadership.
on themselves rather than others,
that's true.
reinforce the here and now focus,
That's true.
model
Yeah,
the behaviors
I
that they
like that.
want, that are
Sounds
desirable, foster trust, and help
Yeah.
members formulate attainable goals, as we said in the
Yeah.
learning objective, right?
You don't
So-
have enough time to wipe your ass, Drew.
What's the benefit of
That's what Paul
focusing
Ness
on
said.
yourself rather
Massive
than
Paul
another
should be
person?
on Amazon.
The answer is simple. You're going to be less likely to be competitive, and you're going to be more motivated by the want
Sounds
or
good.
need to express your point of view.
I
So
hope so.
rather
I
than
sure hope
focusing
so.
on other
That would be
people and what they're
scary if
doing
he
or
was
not doing, when you focus on yourself, there's less judgment, less antagonism, and so forth. We also want you to focus on the here and now. We encourage people to engage in mindfulness, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later. But mindfulness is focusing on the here and now without any judgment or pretense, right? Just being in the moment. You also want to model the desirable behaviors.
Oh,
So,
shit.
Modeling, as we'll see,
Damn.
refers
This
to
is-
demonstrating that which
Yes,
you
it's-
want. And modeling can occur by the group leader, or it could occur by members of
Yes.
the group. And when you model it, the people
true.
who are more apprehensive at first, they can engage in something called social
That's good
referencing,
off
which
there.
is looking at what you're doing and emulating it.
They used to
You
have
want to foster
childcare.
trust. Now, if you want to foster trust, you have to be authentic. You have to be empathic. And we'll talk about all of these things because this is an introduction. I'm going to repeat myself.
Jared Howell had
But
these.
that's
Yes.
very important. Now, we'll also talk about the research findings on establishing a therapeutic alliance, because research suggests the stronger the relationship is between the therapist and the client, the more likely you're going to grow. So that therapist-client relationship can become a vehicle for growth and
True.
change. Then the authors of the book
don't
present
do it.
guidelines for creating effective therapeutic relationships and guidelines that can be given to group members to help them get the most out of the group experience. And then we conclude the lecture by suggesting, with suggestions for opening and closing sessions, providing structure and determining the division of responsibility for the direction and outcome of the group, especially when you have co-leaders or co-facilitators. All right. So, what are the characteristics of the initial stage of group? Well, first and foremost, people are just getting acquainted to group process and group dynamics. And they're learning how a group functions. So if you see that there are periods of silence and awkwardness, that's okay. I want to impress upon you that you should not talk over silence. Give people space to think. Allow people to internally self-regulate if there's awkwardness. But what new group leaders do is that they feel uncomfortable with the silence, so they feel a need to fill that silence in with words. And what I have found is that when you have a person who's very introspective, they might take some time to think before they speak. Or they might speak very slowly, and if they speak very slowly and you jump in, you might actually be cutting their thought off. So sit with the silence. It's almost like that game, the first one to speak first, they lose. So you as a therapist don't want to lose, right? continue to speak on this, then you facilitate or you lead the group in either a deeper question or a different direction. Now, members are evaluating the relative safety of the group, and if they deem that the group is safe, then they're going to share. But until they deem the group is safe, they're going to disclose very little. So they're trying to read you as a group leader as much as you're trying to read them. And nonverbals matter, right? People communicate a lot with their nonverbals. So it's important to pay attention to what people are saying with their words, but also what they're saying with their body. In terms of risk-taking, people are not taking many risks. They tend to be very superficial, similar to the transition phaser. They might put their toe in the water to explore if it's okay to go a step further. But risk-taking is relatively low, and there's a lot of impression management. Now, what's impression management? Impression management is where you try and present yourself in a favorable light. Now, presenting yourself in a favorable light in the beginning is understandable, but long term, if you do that, you're going to lose the authenticity of the experience. You're going to cheapen your experience, and that's not good for anyone. So that's that. All right. So be mindful of that. You also understand that trust versus mistrust is where it's at. They're trying to determine how safe it is. All of this I've said, so I'm going to move on. So what are some fears that group members experience? So I want you to imagine your first day of high school, because obviously it's much larger than group therapy. But think about your first day of high school, and think about when you entered the lunchroom or cafeteria, and there were a massive amount of people. What was your first feeling? It likely was a sense of anxiety, and that's not a pathological anxiety, it's a healthy anxiety. But people have anxiety over whether they're going to be accepted or rejected by their peers, whether they're going to fit in. So when I said that people are not taking many risks and they're doing impression management, right? So they're behaving in a way that is safe, in a way that they're less likely to be rejected or alienated. We also can't read minds, but one of the cognitive distortions we engage in is mind reading. And we oftentimes default to the negative. So when someone else is speaking, or if I am speaking, pardon me, I might think that you're judging me or you're negatively about me, or that which I said was not articulate. So I might have a fear of being creating an appearance that I'm not smart.
Thank you.
Now, some people who engage in group therapy have experienced group therapy before. Those individuals are pros. Those individuals are likely to share more from the beginning. But there are many people who experience group therapy and it's for the first time. And I bet many of you in this class are experiencing group therapy for the first time. And you didn't know what to expect, right? And you don't know what to expect when it starts. But once you get into rhythm, you will feel more safe. So there's a lot of anxiety about not knowing what to what to expect. And even those pros, because it's with different people, unfamiliar people, it's possible that they can have anxiety around not knowing what to expect. So, other people can get frustrated in group. They can have concerns about not being articulate enough or not being able to express their thoughts and feelings effectively. If that is the case, it's upon you as the therapist, as the group leader, to guide them, to facilitate them. And if a person, you feel like they're not hitting the mark, you could say, okay, can we create space for me to ask you a deeper question, or let's look at this at a deeper level and go there that way so that they don't feel like they're not communicating effectively. You're guiding them. Or if they're too heady or intellectualizing, you could say, well, how do you feel with that thought you just shared, right? So that you can get them to give the full range of thoughts and emotions. So, but it's common. It's very common for people to not be able to or feel like they're not able to communicate effectively. If a person had experience in individual therapy or group therapy, they're going to do a little bit better at this in the beginning. So, creating trust, both the leader and the members have a role in this process. You have to facilitate a process by sharing what the personal expectations are, modeling interpersonal honesty, demonstrating respect for people, and also showing a sense of spontaneity or flexibility, right? So modeling is demonstrating specific behaviors either as the group leader or group member in a group session to show what the appropriate behavioral style should be or what you're expecting. Now, the group process, we keep using the term group process, group process, group process. The group process are activities such as establishing norms, creating group cohesion, learning to work cooperatively, solving problems together, expressing conflict openly. All of these are part of the group process. But if you're going to set a goal, the number one goal you're trying to establish is trust. Without trust, without a sense of safety and security, that will torpedo your group. You're not going to get that far into the working stage if people don't trust you or one another. So, but one's level of trust depends on their attitudes and investment in the group. So, what are some attitudes and actions that lead to trust? And the flip side is that if you don't do this, it's going to lead to mistrust in the group. So one thing is to carefully attend to what people are saying, demonstrate genuine listening. The worst thing you could do is ask a question, have a group member respond to that question, and then you restate what they said, but it wasn't what they said. Now, if that happens, if the member feels safe with you, they will correct you. But in the beginning, if you mischaracterize what people are saying, they might feel that you're going to misrepresent them, which leads to mistrust. Another characteristic that leads to trust is paying attention to nonverbal behavior. So pay attention to micro expressions. So subtle smiles, or the way a person looks, their gaze, whether they're looking at you, looking at the ground, whether their arms are folded or extended, whether it seems like they're daydreaming, whether they're twitching their leg. All of these could be something that you want to dive deeper into, because they are
We're
communicating
123.
something from the vantage point of the member that they're not saying verbally. So pay attention to the nonverbals. You
How's it
also
going?
want to demonstrate empathy, and we talked about
Oh,
this when
yeah.
we talked about the various theories of counseling. But empathy is demonstrating the ability to understand someone else's perspective, right? Putting yourself in their shoes, feeling their subjective reality without losing your own identity. So I think there's this saying, walk a day in my shoes. If you demonstrate empathy, you can mentally walk in their shoes. Now, don't engage in false empathy either, but empathy, you can think about what they might be going through. And for example, let's say you had a client that was having a hard time at work and they got laid off. And you as a therapist are seeing this client and they want to talk to you about how they got laid off. And you say, I know what you're going through. Well, what you're trying to convey is empathy,
Hello.
but it's false empathy.
How are you?
They could look you back
Was
in
that-
the eye and
I
say,
started on the
you
first
know
one
what I'm going
because
through?
it said
As
One
you
twenty
you're
three.
working
I went.
and I'm
You could have
unemployed,
said that.
you don't know.
It's in the announcement.
So
Yeah.
I
sometimes
ain't see
most
it, and the good
empathic
three
thing
other
you can
classmates
say
they
is,
see
I
it.
can't imagine how
It's in the
difficult
announcement. It
this
said we got moved to
By saying, I can't
123.
imagine, you're joining them in their pain, but you're
That's
acknowledging
okay,
the limitations.
'cause you
you're
got-
understanding. That's empathy. Genuineness and self-disclosure
Interesting.
is
What's going
just
on here?
being real, making sure that your inner experience and that which you portray externally match,
So,
being authentic.
You guys create your own group for this paper,
Showing respect for people.
but you can cite others.
Everybody
But
has a
cite old
fundamental
ones.
right
wait, the rep draft that I was supposed to do today?
process.
Yeah, it's just
so you don't hold
off
till the last minute, you know what I
mean?
Is
Yeah.
meant to disrespect
I would hold
another.
off till the last minute, but that's why I
The
wasn't
group
like a
leader
perfect
is
student.
not meant
So
to disrespect
ideally, you guys
anyone
do
else
well.
in the group. So you have a fundamental right to respect.
And
If you demonstrate
life large.
respect,
Mhm.
people are going to feel
get
safe
straight
and
A's,
have trust
Hmm?
in the group.
get straight A's.
Who?
If people feel
Anybody.
disrespected,
Not me.
they're going to pull away.
I never got.
Does that mean that you can never offer up criticism?
I
No,
lived in
There's
Nicaragua.
something called caring confrontation,
Mhm.
which is being mindful of where that person is and offering loving criticism or criticism with compassion. Because if you cannot criticize or offer a constructive feedback in a loving way, you shouldn't do it. So you want to invite members to look at aspects of themselves that they've been avoiding,
Why they move
but
us
be
again?
gentle.
I would love to know
gentle
the answer to that question.
They are
They
How
did it.
annoying is that?
When did they move us?
Today.
now
Oh, okay.
identifying and
Still
clarifying the goals.
Maybe that's why
is
Miss
something
Nikita
very,
was like,
very
she just gonna
important
do it
as well.
online.
So in the initial
Cause now my
stage,
class is
a
a
online.
major
That's
task
smart.
is assisting members to identify specific goals that are measurable.
I mean, I am
Keep saying
online
SMART
too.
goals,
It's-
right? So
Mhm.
if you don't
That's how I knew where you
identify
were. I looked at the
proper goals,
Zoom. I looked at the
then
YouTube,
people are
and
gonna
I'm like,
wander
bro.
aimlessly.
Yeah,
Now,
you're
who
like, that's not
establishes
it.
the goals? The answer is it's a
There's the tax
collaborative
ID number. I
process.
gotta do this.
Now,
We got
the leaders
CSW.
can help you in goal setting
Where you
by
gonna do your
using
internship?
contracts and homework assignments.
So I gotta
use both
do
of
more
these
classes before I can
in
do it.
my
But
work process. So
Not a ton.
a contract
no, I gotta do a
can
little
be as
time
simple
more.
as the rules or
Oh, can they hear me?
responsibilities of the group,
I don't do no-
or
Yeah, they can.
that a person commits
Is it confidential?
to taking an
Yeah.
active or
Is it-
responsible stance to an
You're like
issue.
worried about the.
So, and then after we decide
But
what
I
we
just
want
don't
to
know,
tackle, you sign that
Because
you're willing to focus on these
Mhm.
issues and
like,
you're committed
so
to
this
positive
summer
change.
I am doing an internship
Because
with something
if
that
you
will like
Say, oh, I want to work on
help me get my
X,
foot in
but
the
you
door.
really aren't committed to
But
it, you're really
it's
not
in Detroit.
interested in looking at it,
So
you might say
it
you
ain't
are,
doing nothing for
but you're
nothing
not gonna
as
get
far
the
as
most
school wise.
So a contract will
Well, that's an internship. That's what happens.
have a series of
I mean,
statements of the problems
I
you
had
want
to
to
do that.
explore, the behaviors you're willing to change. If you're not willing to change it, then we shouldn't be looking at it.
They said.
We also, throughout the weeks, can assign homework. Homework is a series
Draft
of
is as long as your
exercises,
outline at the end of the
behaviors,
syllabus
sometimes
is.
actual worksheets that look like homework from school that they can
This is about us
either
making our own group, right?
behaviorally
Right.
do or reflect on and write down their experience. that they
And
can
then,
practice
yeah, there's a rough
inside
draft of the
room
final
and
paper.
outside
Diana's
the room.
saying, I'm confused.
Effective
Why haven't you turned the final
therapy
paper
isn't just
early
what happens in the
To
group,
show you started,
but it's
and then you turn it
also
in
what happens
finalized in a month. So you turn it like rough draft, and then you turn it in the
So by
final.
giving a group member homework, you have them focus on their growth.
Is it okay if I like turn some BS in now, but turn some serious stuff in later?
The impact of the
That's
experience.
usually what people do.
It's time for the tornado drill.
Does it say it on that computer too?
I just know it's like 1:30. It's time for it. We're supposed to be doing stuff, Trop.
So, again, the group process,
And go where?
concepts,
I mean, if it's a tornado drill, is it tornado or fire? Fire would be outside. Tornado would be like.
Trop, if you put me outside in the tornado drill, I'm gonna be mad.
Look.
Right. So we not. It's a tornado drill. I mean, we need to go on the ground or something. Not go outside.
I'm about to leave.
What about me? We're gonna drive in a tornado.
I think it's still filming us too. Look at online.
Hey, we got a tornado drill going on. Let me call you back.
About the expected behavior that makes groups function effectively.
Watch. I bet you it's going to be filming us right here. You know that? Ready?
We might all agree upon.
Even though we can't see it. See?
We
Look.
can't talk.
Mm.
Say hi, everybody. We're in a tornado drill.
Hi guys.
We'll save this for next time anyway. Because I think the most important is to get away from the window.
Yeah.
Did they write? Wait, did they? Oh, it still is on. Did they write anything? I can't see their. Oh, I can see it on here though, right? Boom. I'll reply right here. How do I reply to
We
it?
need to take immediate action. We are delayed. You grabbing computers.
This is my work's life, right?